Have you ever been in the middle of an argument, feeling completely justified, only to suddenly feel your throat tighten? You are not sad. You are not hurt. You are angry, frustrated, ready to defend yourself. And then, without warning, your eyes begin to fill with tears. Your voice cracks. The person in front of you looks at you differently. Maybe they even ask, "Why are you crying?" And just like that, the argument changes. You wanted to appear strong. Instead, you feel exposed. You wanted to stay in control. Instead, your body seems to have betrayed you. If you've ever experienced this, you're not alone. But what if angry crying isn't a sign of weakness? What if those tears are not proof that you're fragile? What if they are the result of caring too much and feeling too deeply? Because the truth is, most people aren't crying because of the argument in front of them. They're crying because of everything that came before it. And once you understand why your brain and body react this way, you may never look at your tears the same way again. Most people think they're crying because of the conversation happening right now. But that's rarely the whole story. Imagine a glass of water. If you drop one final drop into an already full glass, the water spills over. Was it the last drop that caused the overflow? Technically, yes, but the glass was already full long before that moment. Your emotions work the same way. The argument you're having today is often just the final drop. Behind it may be months of frustration, years of feeling misunderstood, moments when you stayed silent even though you wanted to speak, times when you tried to explain yourself but nobody seemed to listen. The tears don't appear because of a single sentence. They appear because your nervous system has been carrying far more weight than anyone can see. That is why two people can experience the exact same argument and react completely differently. One person shrugs it off, the other struggles to hold back tears, not because they're weaker, because they're carrying a different history, a different collection of memories, a different emotional burden. What looks like an overreaction is often accumulated pain finally finding a way out. And the moment you understand that, something important changes. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" And you start asking, "What have I been carrying for so long?" If this idea resonates with you, leave a comment below with the word "understood." Because sometimes the most healing realization is knowing you're not reacting to one moment. You're reacting to a lifetime of moments. Now here's where things become even more interesting. When you think you're reacting to the person in front of you, part of your brain may actually be reacting to someone from your past. A parent, a teacher, a sibling, anyone who once made you feel small, ignored, or not good enough. Because during an emotional conflict, the brain doesn't always separate the present from the past. It searches for familiar patterns, a certain tone of voice, a disappointed look, a critical comment, and suddenly, without realizing it, old memories begin to wake up. The adult version of you may be standing in the room, but a younger part of you is standing there too. The part that hated being criticized, the part that wanted to be understood, the part that felt hurt when nobody listened. This is why some arguments feel far more painful than they should. The words themselves are not always the real trigger. The real trigger is what those words remind you of. In many cases, the tears are not coming from the present moment alone. They are coming from years of emotions that were never fully processed, years of disappointment, years of rejection, years of trying to prove your worth. So when the tears appear, it doesn't necessarily mean you're losing control. It may simply mean that an old wound has been touched, a wound you thought had disappeared long ago. And until we understand that hidden child inside us, we will keep blaming ourselves for reactions that make no sense. Because sometimes the person crying in the argument isn't the adult you. It's the younger version of you who still wants to be seen, heard, and understood. Now let's look at angry crying from a completely different angle. Imagine a marathon runner nearing the finish line. Their muscles are working at maximum capacity. Their heart is pounding, their body temperature is rising, and then they begin to sweat. Nobody looks at that runner and thinks, "Wow, they're weak." In fact, the opposite is true. Sweat is evidence that the body is working hard. It's a cooling system designed to prevent overload. Now here's the surprising part. Your emotions have a cooling system too. When you're in a heated argument, your nervous system begins working overtime. Your heart rate increases. Stress hormones flood your body. Your brain becomes intensely focused on the conflict. Your emotional engine is running hot. And when that emotional temperature gets too high, your body looks for a way to bring it back down. Sometimes that response appears as tears. Not because you're fragile, not because you've lost control, but because your system is trying to regulate itself. What if crying during conflict is not emotional weakness? What if it's emotional temperature control? What if tears are simply the psychological equivalent of sweat? The runner sweats because their body is under physical pressure. You cry because your mind is under emotional pressure. Both are signs of effort. Both are signs of intensity. So the next time tears appear during an argument, try a different interpretation. Instead of saying, "I'm breaking down," tell yourself, "My system is cooling itself down." Because angry crying may not be a malfunction at all. It may be one of the smartest survival mechanisms your brain has. If angry crying is your brain's cooling system, then who decides when to activate it? To answer that question, we need to travel thousands of years into the past. Imagine one of your ancestors standing alone in the wilderness. Back then, survival depended on staying connected to the tribe. Being rejected wasn't just painful, it was dangerous. A person separated from the group faced hunger, predators, and death. Because of that, the human brain evolved to treat social conflict as a serious threat. And although the world has changed, much of your brain has not. Today, you're not facing a predator. You're having an argument with your boss, your partner, or a friend. But deep inside, an ancient part of your nervous system may not know the difference. When voices get louder, tension rises, and rejection feels possible, your brain detects danger. The amygdala, your threat detection system, begins sounding the alarm. Stress hormones are released. Your body prepares for survival. This is where your ancient bodyguard steps in. Its only job is to protect you, not to help you win the argument, not to help you sound intelligent, just to keep you safe. And when the emotional intensity becomes too high, it may trigger tears as a way to reduce conflict and lower the threat level. From your perspective, it feels embarrassing. From your bodyguard's perspective, it's a rescue mission. Your brain isn't trying to sabotage you. It's trying to protect you using strategies that helped humans survive for thousands of years. The problem is that ancient survival systems are still operating in a modern world. And sometimes, that overprotective bodyguard shows up when you no longer need saving. But here's something most people never realize. The tears themselves are usually not the most painful part. The real pain comes a few seconds later. The moment you become aware that someone else has seen them. Think about what happens during an argument. You want to appear calm, confident, rational. You want the other person to focus on your words, your ideas, your point of view. But the moment tears appear, it feels as if the spotlight shifts. Suddenly, you're no longer thinking about the conversation. You're thinking about how you look, and that's where the shame comes from. Not because crying is weak, but because it feels like you've lost control of the image you wanted to present. You wanted to look strong. Now you're afraid you look fragile. You wanted to sound composed. Now you're worried that everything you say will be dismissed. In many cases, the humiliation has less to do with emotion and more to do with identity. It's the painful gap between how you see yourself and how you fear others might see you. And the larger that gap feels, the stronger the shame becomes. If you've ever felt embarrassed for showing emotion in front of someone, comment, "Me," because chances are you weren't ashamed of the tears. You were afraid of what those tears might mean. At this point, you might be wondering something. If crying during conflict isn't weakness, then why does it seem to happen more often to certain people? The answer may surprise you. Many of the people most likely to cry during arguments are not the weakest. They're often the ones who care the most. They care about the relationship. They care about fairness. They care about being understood. And most importantly, they care about the people involved. When a person is emotionally detached, conflict becomes easier to manage. They can walk away. They can shut down. They can stop caring. But highly empathetic people don't do that very easily. They stay engaged. They keep trying to explain. They keep searching for understanding. And that emotional investment comes at a cost. The more meaning a situation holds, the more pressure it places on the nervous system. That's why the people who cry are often the same people who love deeply, support others, and carry responsibilities seriously. Their tears are not evidence of weakness. They are evidence of involvement, of caring, of being fully present, of having something valuable at stake. In fact, many emotionally strong people cry precisely because they refuse to become indifferent. They would rather feel too much than feel nothing at all. And while that sensitivity can sometimes be painful, it's also the source of empathy, connection, and genuine human strength. The very qualities that make you cry may be the same qualities that make you a good person. Now that you understand why angry crying happens, let's talk about what to do when it starts. But before we continue, I want you to make a simple decision. Don't try to remember every technique. Just pick one. One tool you can actually use is more powerful than 10 tools you forget. The first tool is the look-up hack. The moment you feel tears building, gently raise your gaze and look slightly upward. This helps shift your attention away from the emotional spiral and can slow the physical urge to cry. The second tool is the math hack. Give your brain a difficult mental task. Try counting backward by sevens, 100, 93, 86, 79. This activates logical thinking and interrupts the emotional flood. The third tool is grounding. Look around and identify 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. This brings your attention back to the present moment. And finally, if the emotion becomes overwhelming, take a strategic pause. Grab a glass of water, take a slow sip, breathe, reset, then return when you're ready. Remember, the goal isn't to suppress your emotions. The goal is to stay present while experiencing them. Because real emotional strength isn't never crying. It's being able to keep your footing even when the tears arrive. The next time tears appear during an argument, try to remember this. You are not broken, you are not overly sensitive, and you are certainly not weak. Those tears may be coming from years of caring, years of trying, and years of carrying more than most people realize. So don't punish yourself for feeling deeply, because the same heart that hurts deeply is often the heart that loves deeply too. And if this video helped you understand yourself a little better, consider subscribing to the channel. We're building a community for people who want to understand their minds instead of fighting them. And if you've ever wondered why you seem to feel everything more intensely than other people, watch the next video on your screen. It might explain more about you than you expect.